Joining us today live on set, a special guest.
What's up, Moto people? My name's Neil Meekins. This is the Moto Chat Show. Today, we have a very special guest on the show who's as at home on a Harley Davidson as she is riding an enduro bike. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome my special guest, Miss Vanessa Ruck, aka the girl on a bike. Vanessa, welcome to the show. Welcome to the Moto Chat Show. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good. Thanks so much for having me. Excited to be on.
And Vanessa, tell me about yourself. Who are you? What do you do? Why are you on this show?
Well, good question. So I'm Vanessa. I'm 33 from Oxfordshire in England, and I'm also known as the girl on a bike. So the girl on a bike started actually as a result of a pretty life-changing accident that I had back in 2014. And since then, I've been physically and mentally on a roller coaster, basically trying to get some kind of normal life and fitness, pain-free living back. Through that journey, I discovered motorbikes. So I didn't have them before the accident, and I have quite swiftly over that time become a complete motorbike addict. So in my journey, I've been sharing the ups and the downs and the realities of life post a life-changing accident with followers across my different social platforms. So it's Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. And I basically just share my world, my love for motorbikes. I think one of the key things is that I have quite a glass half full kind of approach. So I just try and put out positive energy, but also the reality that life isn't always perfect, but it's about tackling it with a smile and just trying to get on with it and make the most of, you know, what deal of cards you have been given. So that's about.
Yeah, great intro. I mean, yeah. Let me take you back a little bit. Let me take you back before you had this accident, and we'll come on to that. When did you first fall in love with motorcycles? When did it first come to your mind about riding on two wheels? And when you did start, what was your journey like, and what was the first bike you ever bought?
Cool, this is a really good question. My love for motorbikes started since the accident. However, I did actually have a bike back when I was 21. I was living on a remote island in the Bahamas. I was doing a work placement there during my university degree, and someone had to work in the Bahamas, right? I was pretty lucky.
Yeah, I turned that one down.
But I was in a situation really where I couldn't afford a car, but I needed a way to get around the remote island of Eleuthera. There wasn't a motorbike on the island, and I had never ridden a motorbike previously, but I thought, other people can ride motorbikes, how hard can it be? So I did some research online and ended up buying a Lifan 250 Enduro, which is basically like a wannabe Chinese Honda. Had it shipped into the Bahamas, and it came in a box, like completely needing assembly, which totally threw me. Back then, I didn't have a clue about motorbike mechanics. Thankfully, a bottle of rum and the bush mechanic had it put together and sent me on my way. And being honest, I never remember learning to ride that bike. I just got on with it and I rode it. And before I knew, I was buzzing around the island, going down sand tracks at beaches, and I had my long spearfish strapped to the side of the bike, my snorkel and fins, and I just disappear off, you know, exploring the island.
I was going to say, was you one of them people riding motorbikes in flip-flops?
I did ride that bike in flip-flops. Looking back, it's crazy. But the reality is that it was a remote island. I don't think there's a single white line on the island. There certainly isn't a traffic light, and you almost certainly weren't going to see anyone. Plus, 90% of the time, I wasn't on a tarmac. So
right. I think if you're going to do it somewhere, that's the place to do it.
Yeah, I didn't ride it in flip-flops routinely, but every so often I'd just do a short buzz. Normally I wore hiking boots, and I had full leather lengths like chaps. It sounds really Christina Aguilera, it wasn't, but I'm a horse rider, so I had full length chaps, and it meant that in the heat of the Bahamas, I could just throw those on over whatever I was wearing, get on the bike and be safe. So I did do my best to wear the protection, based on the fact that I had very limited resources living on a remote island that had basically no traffic risk. the risk was me falling off, which is a very different situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Such a beautiful location that we decided to have sandwiches.
So when you, going back to your life on this desert island, once you'd finished there, do you come back to Blighty and take your motorbike test, or what was the next step?
Yeah, so I came back to England to finish my undergraduate degree, and I thought I should probably get my full motorbike license. So I've enjoyed riding a bike for the last year. So I did my direct access. I remember doing it and absolutely chucking it down with rain. I think it was like a 3 or 4 day course near Portsmouth. Got it done, sent my license off, and that was it. End of chapter, really. I had no intention of getting a bike. I didn't have the funds to have a car and a bike. And then I ended up moving back to the Bahamas anyway, because I finished my undergrad degree. I then realised I wanted to do a master's. So I came back to the UK to do my master's. And at that point, I met my now husband and decided that the job back in the Bahamas wasn't as attractive when I found my soulmate here in England. And I got a job in Oxford. Not quite as glamorous, but looking back at my journey of life, it was absolutely the right thing to do. And my husband had his full license as well, but neither of us had bikes.
Going back even 10 years, maybe 20 years, the amount of ladies, the amount of girls that were getting onto motorcycles, and, you know, let's just put it this way, it was very few and far between. And it seems that, especially the last 5 to 10 years, that gap between male riders and female riders is getting narrower and narrower all the time. I mean, it's a really, really encouraging thing to see. What do you think it is that is sparking the female interest? Girls that are not into motorbiking, what are they missing out on? What is it that's attracted so many women to motorcycle riding now? And not only that, but the whole thing that comes with it is the clothes, right? Because like my Lizzie, she has got an outfit for every day we can go riding. So yeah, there's the engineering, the tinkering, the riding. There's so many different things. So why is it's only been up until recently? And why are women really attracted to it at the moment?
Yeah, I think girls have been riding bikes for a long time, but I think if you look at any of the more extreme sports, there's always been a tendency for there to be less females. And I would probably say that most sports are seeing an increase in females. I don't know whether that's down to a cultural shift, moving away from settling down and having families at a really young age, a cultural shift between, women being at home and more of the house life kind of things. Maybe less of a fear or a pink fluffiness of stereotyping. As far as children coming up, there's more of an acceptance that, the girls don't have to play with dolls. They can play with little cars and diggers as well. Yeah. A few guesses. I think, it's going to be a huge amount of inputs on that.
Yeah, I mean, that would sound about right. As, women are going out to work more, they're becoming more breadwinners, their careers, et cetera, et cetera. I can remember a time when, these kind of things were very, very rare. So at my age group, seeing that coming on now is exciting. It's really good. It's fantastic to see. And I'm seeing a lot of younger male and female actually starting to get into the biking world. My stepson, he's 21, so he's riding now as well. And people are starting to feel the passion. And maybe it's because that the actual bikes are safer, the training is better, and it's hard to have a car in this environment because it's just so expensive. You had your license, you've met a guy, he's kept you at home, because let's face it, life is better when you're sharing, no matter where you are.
Yeah.
And is this something the two of you do together as well? Do you ride together? And when did that kind of start? What was your kind of drive motivation? Did you both go out and buy bikes? Did you go on an adventure? What was the kind of things you started doing now?
Yeah, so we're really lucky historically. We've always been like two peas in a pod, very, very aligned interests. And I'd say like 99% of the time, what he would want to do is what I'd want to do. And we share all the same sports. If it's a sport that neither of us do, we tend to get stuck in exactly the same way. So, I mean, our first date was rock climbing. We both mountain bike, snowboard, snow kite surf, rock climb, all of the same sports.
Yeah.
And with the motorbikes, we went to Texas for our honeymoon. And when you go to Texas, one of the things you tend to do is ride Harley Davidson. So we hired a couple of Harleys. And we did about 1,000 miles in 5 days around the Palo Duro Canyon and stuff. And that was sort of part of our honeymoon. No bikes again, obviously, in the UK. It was just sort of a honeymoon thing. And fast forward a little bit in time, my husband's an engineer officer in the Royal Air Force, and when we had one of our wedding anniversary, he was in Afghanistan with the Air Force, so we missed it. When he got back to the UK, I was in a position physically after, I think I'd had my shoulder reconstructions at this point, but was still trying to sort the hip out. I decided to organise 2 Harleys for an afternoon just to have a honeymoon kind of late anniversary kind of experience. And we went off on these 2 Harleys with no intention of buying. Like seriously, there wasn't even a thought on the planet that we were going to buy them. It was just for a fun afternoon. Anyway, zero intention to wanting to buy. And it was probably one of the best things that we've done in my recovery, because it became our freedom and our adventure, our sports, our escapism. When I was physically unable to do any of the adrenaline-filled sports that we'd done prior to my accident, I remember the day when we were able to get on the Harleys and we rode about 6 miles down the road to a campsite. And oh my goodness, I felt so alive. I was out of the house, we were camping, we had some steak on the barbecue, some bubbly, and it was like the biggest adventure possible. Nothing compared to what we'd have done previously, but in relation to the surgeries and the recovery, it was huge. And so over the following years, now Fug has done just over 20,000 miles. And I would say they're 20,000 miles of like recovery miles, where that was our freedom and adventure. And we'd go on big road trips. We weren't doing crazy sports, but the Harley gave us that adventure.
I swear that ridge makes you wobble. Oh my god.
Right, I think I'm done. What do you think?
Yeah?
You all right with that?
I'm really satisfied. That was amazing.
Did you call your Harley a name?
Thug.
Thug.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure it was you referring to your husband or the Harley, but that's a good name. What is it? What make a Harley? What type?
She's a Dyna Street Bob. So
Okay.
she's just shy of 1700cc. I've done quite a few little engine upgrades on her, so she's got some serious power. We reckon about 115 brake horsepower. Not many can beat her off the line. She hasn't got top speed, obviously, because you haven't exactly got aerodynamics going like this, but
No.
she's got some torque.
You have an upgrade, stage 2, stage 3?
Stage 1 and 2.
Okay, cool. Zipping back in time a little bit more. See, now, I know you had this vehicle accident. It was a vehicle accident, but it wasn't a motorbike accident, was it not? No.
No, it wasn't motorbike. I was cycling.
Oh, you was on a push bike. Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me what happened. Tell me the slight lead up to it. How was you thinking then? Was you in a good place? Was there anything going on, or was it purely just, riding down the street and some idiot hits you? What happened, Vanessa?
Yeah, so this was back in March 2014. It was a pretty standard Tuesday. I used to commute cycling to work, so I did 16 miles a day. That was just my normal getting to work. And yeah, I'd left work. I was actually on the way to the wakeboarding lake to meet my husband and some friends that my husband and I operated and ran the REF boat. So I'd drive and coach, and we were destined to go to the lake that night, but I was about a mile down the road from the office, pedaling away, spring sunshine, and a car coming the other way decided not to stop at their red light, and they just cut straight across in front of me, leaving me with nowhere to go, and I went straight into the side of them. And in that moment, life as I knew it changed for a really, really long time. In the immediate moments from the accident, we didn't realize the full implications at all. I wasn't bleeding out on the side of the road or anything like that. I needed help getting out of the road. I was, stuck on the floor, my cleats on the bike, and my right shoulder was useless to help me get up. But it wasn't like a horrific arm falling off scene or anything crazy. I went to hospital in the ambulance and called my husband in the car or in the ambulance and said, look, don't panic, I'm okay, but can you meet me at the hospital? I still don't know how he did it, but when those doors opened up at the hospital, he was stood right there in the, gosh, it's getting me upset, right there when they opened. I got sent home from the hospital with bruising, and 7 surgeries on, 6.5 years later, I've had a reconstructed shoulder and hip, so they couldn't have been more wrong in that A&E that night. But anyway, that's not the point. It's been a bit of a roller coaster, and over those 6.5 years, there's been lots of ups and downs where I'd have a surgery and I'd start to be, pushing it, getting better. They'd be telling me, you're doing really well, keep going, keep pushing it. And then I'd be like, no, I hurt. I shouldn't feel like this. And then they'd have another look and go, oh yeah, sorry, we missed that, more surgery, and it'll be back under the knife. And that's kind of happened like a little roller coaster.
So you've had 7 surgeries.
Yeah.
In the space of, so what exactly happened to your body? I mean, broken bones, dislocations, could you mind sharing that with us?
No, that's fine. So my right shoulder was effectively like separated. So if you looked at it like this, let's get the camera like that, it looks fine. Yeah. But if you look at it from that angle, you can see it's, 3 mil, 10 mil back, separated. So my right arm was about 1 inch longer, and for a while, like my party trick was like I could bounce it around and it would move. It wasn't a good party trick. So that had to be bone shortened, joint reset, all of the ligaments removed, artificial ligaments put in, strapped round, and then bolted back together. And then on my hip, I've had so much work. I've had bone work, ligament repair, stem cell treatment. I've had all of the cartilage fully removed and reconstructed and replaced. I've had that done again because it failed. I've had further cartilage repair and work and like manipulation of it, cleaning up of the mechanics of the joint, trying to get it to like sit clean again. So lots of bone work as well. But it's all me in there. There's no, well, I've got donor cells, but it's not metal.
At the time, you don't think it, but for some reason, good or bad, perhaps you were meant to experience that because you have a greater purpose, and it will all come to fruition. Yeah.
If you took me back to 1 minute before the accident and said you can stop it happening, I wouldn't change a thing.
That's awesome.
It's what I needed to have in my life. It's taken me on the journey to where I am now. I'm stronger, I'm more grateful. I know what's worth fighting for, what's worth getting upset about, and what just doesn't matter. All those sorts of levels of gratitude. Yeah, I'm quite grateful for it in some strange kind of a little bit twisted kind of way.
No, that is an awesome way of looking at it. And you know, sometimes, like I always say, if those things come over you and you feel emotional, like that's part of your healing process, and that can happen for 20 years, 30 years, an entire lifetime. Life chooses our path sometimes. I don't know.
I don't care how good you are. I don't care how talented you are. I don't care how much you work on yourself. There are some times when things aren't going to go right. There are times when anything that can happen will happen.
Life happens. The unexpected, the uncalled for, the unintentional. We've been damaged emotional, damaged spiritually.
It may be your business. It may be your heart that is broken today. It may be the number in your bank account that is screaming, "You are broke."
You can break physically, you can break mentally, you can break your heart, you can break your spirit, and all of those are gonna leave a mark. But the mark that they leave can be the mark of victory or it can be the mark of defeat.
It is staying with the breaking that produces the blessing. It is not what you go through that determines where you end up. It's who you listen to. Because I think right now, you are walking through a valley between two voices. One is wisdom, one is worry. One is gratitude, one is grumbling. One is blame, one is faith.
Because every time you break, and in every way that you break, while it's a chance for you to give up and for you to fall apart, but there's also opportunity to get stronger and get smarter and get faster and get tougher and get more stable and get more resilient and get better.
How long did you spend in hospital? Because you said they discharged you with bruising.
Yeah.
So they got you back pretty quick after that. Was you complaining? Did you have problems? Was there?
Oh yeah, I was just sent home to rest, and it became very apparent quite quickly that it was a longer journey than that.
Are there things that have helped you to overcome these physical setbacks and mental setbacks? So let's talk about the physical, from exercise to anything that you've eaten, anything that might, you know, help other people to think, well, you know, okay, that might help me.
Yeah, so I think the most important thing in any recovery doesn't include anything other than you, and that is do your goddamn physio. The amount of people that complain about injuries and pains, and I'll say, cool, so have you got physio? Are you doing it? And they're like, oh, no, I haven't done it. And it's like, then be quiet. You don't have a right to complain about that if you're not taking it into your control and doing something about it. So number one, and it actually gets me a little bit angry, is do your physio. You don't need any magical tools or anything. Is that very first step. Do your physio.
Yeah, we had an old saying that healthcare starts with self-care. If you're not prepared to do your own stuff, you just can get them going where you want to go.
Yeah, that's so true. But there are obviously always things that help you on top of that. I think hydrotherapy has been incredibly important, particularly with the hip, because it enables you to mobilize without the weight and gravity. So I use something called a complex machine, which is the easiest way to describe it is like a TENS machine, but it's not quite the same as a TENS machine. And it enables you to stimulate your muscles without using joints, so you can strengthen. For example, post hip reconstruction, you really can't be using your hip joints for quite a long time, and you get huge muscle loss down your legs. I think I lost about 2 inches on my right leg. And even with a complex. So using the complex enables me to, and I still use it now, and I think I will use it even when I'm back full sports because of the muscle recovery functions. So I use that. A Physiolab icing machine was a game changer post-surgery for chronic inflammation. I get my surgeries mixed up a little bit. After my second reconstruction of my hip, I was at a point where I just kept hitting the ceiling. It would be, 3 steps forward, 5 steps back, 1 step forward, 2 steps back, and I just couldn't get past that point. And I had the Physiolab, and it just enabled me to get back on the bike. Actually, I put it completely down to having that machine for a month, which is pretty cold, but you do what you've got to do to get your one home you're ever going to have better, right?
Oh,
and then the other one, which I discovered slightly more recently, is active collagen, and that is a health supplement. So collagen is the biggest protein function in the body, and something that from the age of 20 we start to lose the volumes of it in our body, yet we still need it just as much as we ever did. It's, you know, the classic getting older kind of thing. And collagen is really important for muscles, ligament repair, tendons, bones, strength recovery, all of the protein synthesis in the body. So I discovered it and thought, go, done. There's zero negative side effects. I've just got to try whatever I can to get myself in the best state to have this hip surgery. And I honestly I don't think I'll ever have a day in my life now where I don't take it, because the difference it has made, not just in my hip, in my skin, my hair. Most people think of collagen as the beauty products, but it really does do that. But even my knees don't ache. When I get up in the morning, I used to have kind of achy ankles if I'd been active. I don't get any of that anymore. My husband's got it. His tennis elbow and golf elbow that he's been struggling with for about 9 months is nearly all cleared up. It's just incredible. So if anyone wants to hear about the active collagen, drop me a message.
Yeah, I'm looking excited.
Yeah, I want to climb on the roof and tell everyone about it. I wish I found it 10 years ago.
So it's active collagen. How do you take that? Is it mixed up? Is it a tablet? Do you take it in water? Is every day?
It's so easy. It's a little gel sachet that you take once a day, kind of like a sports gel.
Yeah.
I think it's about 30 ml or something like that. It tastes like an intense citrus, so it's actually quite nice. I enjoy it. It's like my mid-afternoon treat, and you just have one of those every day. I also use their protein powder now. They have a whey collagen protein powder. So I used to use my protein. I've binned that and I'm using theirs.
That's great. I mean, like, wait till you get to 50. I can tell you the aches and pains. You don't need to have an accident. They just come on.
Oh, God, I don't want to know how I feel at 50. If I feel like this at 33, I'm doomed.
Believe me, it's not that bad, but you feel it. You do feel it, honestly.
I mean, I know that the sports that I want my body to be capable of doing again are going to require me to be fitter than a normal person doing those same sports, because my body has to compensate for injuries, which means I have to be even stronger.
Do you, sports aside, do you do anything in particular for motorcycle riding? Do you do exercise? I mean, me personally, I think it's important to be as fit as you possibly can to ride a motorcycle. I think your joints need to work well. I think your muscles need to work well. And if you're just lazing around day after day and then jumping on a bike and doing a 200-mile trip, I think you're putting yourself at a more risk to a problem. Doesn't mean to say you're going to have one. So is there anything you do specifically after learning all this stuff that you've learned that helps you with your motorcycling?
Yeah, definitely. So I guess the key thing to remember is that my normal motorcycling isn't road biking. It's extreme and hard enduro off-road. So it is insanely physical, which means you don't do that much off the bike because you are burning so many calories and using every muscle in your body when you're on it that you kind of recover when you get off it. However, that said, you can't be on your bike every day. So you need to be doing the fitness and the preparation so that when you can ride your bike, you're fit and you're not going to just get horrendous arm pump from holding onto the handlebars in the first 10 minutes. So I think the key thing for my moto fitness is something called Prep Sports, which is a motorbike handlebar balance thing. So it's kind of like a push-up bar that is motorbike or cycling handlebars, and you can do planks and push-ups and they do some band workouts, but it's really good for the moto cycling muscles.
Yeah.
So all of your grip, your core stability, your balance, in my hip stability, it definitely helps, because if you're doing a plank on a rocky handlebar, all of your core is engaged, all of those inner muscles.
Yeah.
And then cardio work. So typically I'd cycle. Running isn't something that my body will probably ever want me to do again. So road cycling is something I enjoy doing as well. And general weights and fitness when I can, but I'm not in a gym very often.
No.
My biggest goal is to be on the bike as much as I can, and that is a lot of fitness, because the amount of times I pick up my 100-kilo bike in the mud,
yeah,
you don't do that many squat reps in a gym.
No, and I know a lot of motorcyclists, they do jump on a mountain bike, and even the from enduro racers all the way through to sports racers, they all get on a mountain bike and use that skill of balance and core. But what you said about that handle, is that something that you've come up with, or is that something you buy?
It's something you buy. It's called Prap Sports. I can give you the link to share with the video. I can get you 15% off as well with that link. So
yeah,
they're amazing. So good.
Really interested in that, actually. Not only do you get back on a motorcycle, Vanessa, with all these injuries and everything you've had, but you do one of the toughest style of motorcycling you could probably ever do. You do enduro racing. Now, I have to be honest, I have seen you do some of this. I've seen you do it on your YouTube channel. I've seen you going down these hills and round these, I've never done that. I do want to do it. Tell me, how and why did you get into trail riding?
It's a question I get asked quite a lot, and my answer is pretty lame. So I was bedbound after my first hip surgery.
Yeah.
I woke up one morning and I have no idea to this day where it came from. I've got no recollection of seeing a dirt bike. I'd never been interested in them previously. And I just rolled over to my husband and I said, "Can I get a dirt bike?" And he was like, "Yes." Okay, where the hell did that come from? Let's do it. So we did some research. We went out and we were quite lucky to be in a position where we could go out and buy a really cheap little old Yamaha. And we bought it. We had it in the garage, and it was 5 months till I could even sit on it, but I had it. It was there. It was a goal. It was something to keep me motivated when I just hurt and I didn't want to get up. I didn't want to do my physio. It was like, remember the bike that sat in the garage? I'm going to ride that. And from then we got one bike thinking, let's just check that it's something that we really enjoy. And we quickly realized, just from really simple green laning, so looking for byways on the UKOS maps and sort of, which is a legal terrain that you can ride. And just doing some really gentle green laning, we realized that we loved it. And as my recovery and fitness kind of improved and went up, I think I was on the bike for about 6 weeks the first time, then had to have more surgery, and then maybe it was 2 months and then more surgery. And so this has been up and down, because I've had 4 surgeries since this. Yeah. And each time we've sort of built skill and got a little better, we've just gone a bit more and more extreme. And now we do full on hard enduro. So I was meant to be probably today leaving for Red Bull Romaniacs.
Also, but, I mean, there's something that people don't realise, actually. Look, motorcycles are fun on the road, going on tours, but get on a trail bike, take it off road, have some fun on it, and challenge yourself like you've never been challenged before. Like I said, you make it look appealing, yeah? So that's a good thing. That's a good thing. And your other half as well, the two of you both share in the same things. I know a lot of people who can't share their passion, but when you share it together, I mean, it's just absolutely awesome. So
yeah, we're really lucky, and if we didn't both love it, we certainly wouldn't have done a garage setup like this. Yeah. You can actually see a full tour of my garage on my YouTube channel, but we built it from scratch. I was a digger driver, dug the foundations, and now it's probably one of the most used spaces in our house.
So you get your hands dirty with some of the mechanics.
Yeah.
You're not just sitting on it, you're actually doing some of the...
Yeah.
What kind of level are you at with mechanics? I mean, you stripping engines, you're just doing brake pads, or what kind of level are you at?
Yeah, so I've done full top end and bottom end rebuilds on 2 strokes. So pretty complex stuff. Yeah. For the more complicated things like that, my husband's always around. I haven't taken that on completely solo yet, but I never need to be, because we tend to be, in the garage, you share life, so you share stuff, right? Yeah. But brake pads, oil changes, all that kind of stuff, no drama at all. And I think the reality is that if we didn't do the maintenance on our own bikes, we wouldn't be able to afford to do the amount and the types of riding that we do, because to have trials bikes, hard enduro bikes and road bikes, the amount of maintenance that you'd have to pay somebody else would just make it cost prohibitive for us. So being able to do it ourselves, have our garage space, full like 10 tool setup, it makes it possible for us, and it's really enjoyable. My husband's an engineer in your Air Force, and so he's got that kind of mindset of being able to look at something and break it down and work out how it works. And I'm like a sponge trying to suck and learn as much knowledge off him as possible, using YouTube videos, getting him, quizzing him. The amount of times we sat having dinner and I've been like, so how does this bit work? And how does that link with that bit? And poor guy, he's had to tell me some things over and over until it really makes sense. And in my head, I can picture exact flow of the engine. And I've actually got to the point where when there's something wrong with the bike, I'm pretty good at diagnosing and working out what's wrong. I'm not necessarily able to completely fix it yet, but I can normally work out what the problem is, which is a huge step to getting there. And that's something that if we rewind 4 years ago, I didn't have a clue.
No.
So you don't have to know about bikes to start. It's just about being brave enough to try, reading up, using the bike's manual. That is such a valuable source. Using YouTube's, asking friends, and giving it a go. Worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to have to go to a garage with your bike and say, couldn't quite fix it, help me, which you would have had to do in the first place anyway. So give it a go. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, you know, it sounds like you're very knowledgeable about this stuff. You know, you've built up all this experience, and I guess, like you said, over 3 or 4 years, when you're constantly involved in something and you have an interest, then that sparks you wanting to know more and get into it, because some people just haven't got the interest and they try to pick it up and they just can't do it. They'd just rather sit on it and ride it. But it's horses for courses, right?
Yeah.
What can you do? I've just found recently, actually, my communication with my other half, with Lizzie, we've just started to we've turned our comms off a little bit, because sometimes I find that when we are talking sometimes, or if we're going round a wrong way or trying to pull out or do something, when you hear someone shouting in the comms, it can be very off-putting. Now, we're not super experienced riders. We've only been riding like 2 years or so. So do you use a comms? What type of comms do you use? And the honest reality, what do you think of using comms?
Cool. Awesome question. I think a intercom is an absolute helmet accessory must-have. And I think the key thing to remember about an intercom is it is not just an intercom. It is so much more if you get the right one. So I use Cardo Systems Pack Talk Bold, which from all of the research I did is massively a market leader, and I completely rate them. I can't put a word wrong to them. We've been using them since we first started with the Harleys, and I can't fault them. Incredible battery life, incredible volume controls. They fit in the helmet super easy. I've got them, the mounts in all of my enduro trials, road helmets. I just clip the unit onto whichever one I want to use. I don't have to faff with any wires or anything like that. Yeah. And when I say that it's more than just an intercom, yes, it's an intercom. You can also do all of your phone calling on it. So you can do hot dial, redials, answering calls. And the amount of times I'll be chugging along on the Harley and someone will ring me and I'm like, hey, yeah, you're in my motorbike helmet, but I can hear you. And they're like, what? How are you doing that?
Wow.
And they can't tell. They can't hear the road noise. You can chat away in your helmet like you would in hands-free on the car. You've then got the fact that you can do navigation. So your Google Maps or whatever mapping system can tell you where you're going. If you want to navigate, you can obviously speak to each other. You can have music on, radio on. And with the Cardos, it's completely seamless. So like you would be in a car, if you were in a car, you'd be able to have the sat-nav talking to you, the radio on, and the passenger chatting. It's exactly the same on the Cardo, and it will just dim things really subtly as you switch. So if your passenger starts talking or you start talking, the music will ever so slightly dim to enable your conversation to be more dominant. And then when you stop talking, the music comes back up. You're not going to miss a sat-nav direction if someone starts talking to you. You'll just hear the sat-nav and the voice. So the original Cardo I had, it was one channel or the other. So if you were trying to follow sat-nav and then your passenger started talking, you'd be like, stop talking, Google. Then the modern ones aren't like that. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And I think for safety, it's really a beneficial one if you're riding with your partner or friends or groups, because it enables you to have more than two eyes. When you're riding along, you can be like, whoa, do you see that dog? Or you're on a roundabout, all clear, you can follow out, whatever it might be, you can be each other's eyes, chat to each other. And I think when I first started riding after the accident, I can't underemphasize that it was a big deal getting back on the road after the accident, particularly going from a bicycle onto a motorbike.
Yeah.
And I think having the Cardo, knowing that my husband was kind of there with me.
Yeah.
It wasn't just me out on my own. I think every single time I went out on that bike for quite a long time, there would be a moment, almost guaranteed every time, where I'd be like that, back to the accident, and I'd freak out. Might be tears in my helmet, but I always just had to push on because I couldn't let that driver stop me being on the road. Yeah. I had to process it and dealing it, but knowing that my husband was there and he was like, you're okay. Just him telling me that I was okay made so much of a difference. And, do you want to pull over? We can stop. It's like, no, I'm good. Let's keep going. But, you're sharing it all. And, when you're driving along, you'll be like, whoa, look at that ridiculous looking cow in the field. And if you haven't got intercoms, you've got to try and remember when you next stop for a coffee or something. And by then you've completely forgotten it. But when you've got your intercoms on, you can just share the whole experience the whole time.
Yeah, I've got to admit, we've had some great laughs actually having them on. They can probably get a bit distracted sometimes, but yeah, I completely get where you're coming from with that. I mean, we've actually, even though we don't always have it on now, we still have it on, but I might be listening to music very, very softly. I don't like too much going on in my ear, but then if we do get split up, we can always find each other very, very quickly. So that's the technology that's going into this now. And I mean, obviously, Pack Talk, did you say they were?
Yeah, Pack Talk Bowl.
Now I've not used theirs, so there's another tip. I mean, I've done a lot with Senna Evos, and some of the cheaper ones as well. So that might be something I have to have a look into as well. Going back to your back into the garage. You said that you're getting pretty a good level, should we say, on taking things apart, putting things back together, finding out different problems, and you're interested in it. It's not something that's kind of forcing you into it. Now, I can see you've got a fantastic setup behind you. What kind of gear do you use? Do you recommend any kind of stuff, for stripping down engines? Any specific tools or makes of tools or anything that you kind of like to use that other people might find, good quality stuff that's going to last for a few years?
Yeah. I think when we built our garage, we kind of made the decision that over the years, we had built up a collection of hodgepodge tools and it was a bit all over the place. And we just thought, you know what, let's commit. Yeah. And we just did a full Tang setup so that we had all of our tools. Everything is in foam, so it's all got its exact home. You know where everything is. You're never going to lose that 10mm spanner because it has a home. You can't miss it. I think the most important tool that I wouldn't want to work on bikes without is torque wrenches. And, you'll get all of the old school mechanics who are like, oh, white knuckle it. The reality is, some of the metals and the threads need such precision in how you tighten them that there is so much that can go wrong. And you can't learn the whole 3 white knuckles, 2 white knuckles, overnight. The amount of engine cases you're going to write off trying to learn that, get a torque wrench. Yeah. Make sure you're doing things up tightly, using Loctite when the manual tells you to. I think that's probably my biggest tip, because it's so easy to get that wrong. And before you've known it, you've written a thread off, cracked the engine casing for the sake of just using the right tool to measure that tension.
Yeah, I've got to
So,
admit, I've been a bit old school in my day, and when you say about the knuckles, that I can remember my dad saying that to me when we took car engines apart on the road. That was in the days when you could take them apart. Now with the fuel injection and that, it's not so easy. So what's next for you guys? I mean, I'm kind of including your husband in that, because you're both obviously really connected with this, as Lizzie and I are, as couples that are sharing this same kind of adventure.
yeah.
What's on the horizon for you guys? What's your next venture? I mean, I know you've got a great YouTube channel. You've got a good website. We see your Instagram is coming along. Where are you going with it? What's on the horizon?
The reality is that moment when the car hit me, my journey in life changed. And since then, I've just been on a journey of making the most of every day. Every day that I am alive, I am grateful for the fact that I'm able to. Every moment I can get on a bike is just a moment of pure happiness. And so I don't really know where my journey's going, but I'm going to keep riding it. And, when I get to a junction, decide which way I feel like going. There are some kind of big goals. Like, we were meant to be doing Red Bull Romaniacs, which is one of the toughest hard enduro races in the world.
Tell me about that, Vanessa, because I haven't got a clue what that is.
So it is a 6-day event in Romania. Day one is a prologue. It's really fun to watch if you fancy Googling Red Bull Romaniacs. There's some amazing footage.
I will.
And there's a prologue in the town, which is effectively a man-made obstacle course of giant boulders, rocks, logs, tires, things that pretty much want you dead, and you have to go over those on a motorbike. That's day one. Depending on how you do in the prologue, you're then ranked on the start line for day one, or day two, sorry, which is then off into the Romanian mountains for a 5-day hard enduro race where, you could be in the saddle for 8 to 10 hours on some pretty extreme terrain, depending on your speed, how many brakes you need, if you get lost because you're following GPS.
Training area where the monster new toys are, and Buddy and I are going to have our first day riding together. Hopefully we are going to make friends and possibly even make it over some of the obstacles. So kitted up and it's time to ride.
Did you say you're gonna go there, or you're thinking of going there?
We should have been leaving today, but COVID-19 has had its impact. So we have deferred our entries. I think it's been delayed to later in the year, but because we've had 4 months in lockdown, not riding, and also I've ended up having to have more hip surgery, there's no way we'd be fit enough. It wouldn't be fair on our bodies to go into a 6-day race like that.
No,
so we're going to do it for next year. And, the class that we're doing, we're obviously not going into the pro category, but the class that we're doing will be the hardest thing we've ever done. And our goal is to, get around it together. We'll have our intercoms on and we'll be a team. We know that you have to go into it based on the fact that you will be pulling your bike up stuff with ropes. You're going to be dragging it, hard sweat and tears.
It sounds really awesome. It really does. You obviously got a YouTube channel. You do the videoing and that. What's the challenges with the video? Do you just put a GoPro on and just hope for the best, or are you quite serious about what you record and put out there on YouTube?
So I've only started my YouTube quite recently. I really only started it at the beginning of lockdown, and I've been going back through some of my footage and trying to build stuff together.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited for my next trips, where I've learned a lot through the last few months of what works and what's good footage to be able to get better footage moving forward. So we're actually going to Iceland at the end of August for 3 days riding out there, the two of us. So we've also bought a drone to really up the video game. And I think the biggest thing I've learned is it's almost not to be scared of having too much footage, because it's better to have the footage and delete it than to wish you'd filmed it.
I've done like a Route 66, because I know you like your Harley. You're telling me about your Harley, your Dyna before. What's his name or her name? What's its?
Thug.
So Fug.
Yeah.
That's a woman's name then.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Fug. So have you done a big Harley ride? Like.
So we've only done America once. We did 1,000 miles in Texas. So we did Midpoint Cafe on Route 66, Palo Duro Canyon, Cadillac Ranch. We did 1,000 miles.
Nice.
That's the only biking that I've done in the States.
How did you what did you think of it? The riding, and I mean, I know the place is incredible, right? I mean, everybody wants to do Route 66. I've never been. I've heard it's got quite commercialized. What did you think of it? What did you think of it?
I thought it was awesome. It's a great tick off. I think now, particularly with my fitness and recovery goals, I would want to be on dirt bikes and, going to Utah and Colorado and, getting into some of the outback that they have out there.
I just see a guy actually online. He's just done East Coast to West Coast, basically, all on dirt roads, the entirety, like old stagecoach roads. And just camp by the side of the road, pull into somewhere. And obviously they did that on enduro style bikes. But that was an incredibly challenging ride, but very rewarding and very different from doing Route 66. You always associate America with Route 66. We're looking for trailblazers like yourself to find these things, put them on YouTube, and then people will start going, wow, what a great idea. We'll start doing it. So I guess you're leading the way, Vanessa.
Yeah, I'd say one I really recommend is Bolivia. Did that on adventure bikes, Tiger 800s last year, and that was mind-blowing.
You did it on a Tiger? That's my bike.
Hey, cool. It's one of those countries where it feels like you're going through 6 countries because of the diversity in the terrain. So you start in sort of the Amazon rainforesty kind of stuff. You've got the Alto Plano, the Salada Uni salt flats. You've got massive canyons and rolling roads. I didn't realize how good the roads were.
Yeah.
The roads that I would describe them as a Texan highway mated with an alpine pass. Amazing. Absolutely incredible. Where you are peg scraping corner for 4 hours non-stop. Wow. Absolutely insane riding. And then next minute you're off road, the track will end and you'll be going off climbing up a volcano. People are realizing just the sheer adventure you can have on a bike in another country with the sun and the wind on your skin, and it's incredible. Anywhere else, the one place that you enjoyed riding the most, where's your favourite? If we were to take hard enduro, it's Sardinia. So I rode with Tour Enduro Sardinia, so you can have full bike hire, you just fly in with your kit and ride with them. That was the best enduro terrain I've experienced. A lot of mountains, isn't it? It's very hilly. Yeah, it's lots of mountains, but it's quite varied. 1 minute you'll be in like a rock boulder bed, then you'll be in a river bed, then you'll be on some huge plain mountain top, then you'll be in a forest. Yep. Really varied, but absolutely incredible. Really nice food as well. As far as the Harley, I think the Alps and the Dolomites for mountain passes are incredible. But the coast road in Croatia was stunning. although it was quite a busy road. It was one of those roads where you kind of just want the cars to disappear, but the scenery...
Was that kind of Dubrovnik way and upwards, or...?
Not quite as far as that. We went down as far as Split. That was an organised tour with Tour One. So if you want to do a road trip where you don't know where the best roads are, goodness knows which hotels to pick or where to stop for lunch or where the photo stops are, Tour One just organised the whole lot.
Is there anything before we part ways that you wanted to talk about in particular now, or now's the time to...
Speak now or forever hold.
Yes.
Yeah, you know what? I just want to say one thing to anyone who is out there watching this thinking, you know, I'd really like to start riding, or I wish I could ride more, or I don't have the confidence. Just get up and give it a go. It's not about winning or being the fastest or anything. It's about lapping the person on the sofa. And that person is you on the sofa. So get off the sofa and give it a go. You know, we all start somewhere. And it's just about having fun and making the most of it, because, you know, things might change and next week you might not be able to, which, you know, make the most of every day. And do your physio if you have physio.
Do your physio. All right, Vanessa, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Great words to finish on.
Oh, yes. One more thing. Make sure you hit follow and find my channels, right? You've got to do that shameless plug.
Yeah, so your YouTube channel is Girl on a Bike? The girl
on a bike.
The girl on a bike.
It's the same on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be able to chat with you. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed the show. It was really awesome to speak with Vanessa and get her take on all things motorcycling. If you enjoyed the content of the show, please like, share, subscribe. My name's Neil Meekins. This has been the Moto Chat Show. Thanks for watching. Take care, and remember, there's never a wrong way.